Should you go grey or should you continue to colour your hair? What is going to make you look more youthful? Are you ready for the change or not? It's as simple as that. But let's go into the more nuanced elements that might help you decide as to whether you are ready for that change. Going grey is not simply just a matter of stopping dyeing your hair. It's actually a style change. It's a mindset shift. So I'm going to talk about 4 parts here. The myth of whether it's aging, how to transition smoothly, how to look after grey hair, and how to look fantastic with grey hair. So grab a cuppa. Let's get on with it. So is grey hair aging? Let's get this big elephant out of the room. Grey hair is not automatically aging, but yes, it can be if there are other aspects that we don't update along the way, which I am going to talk about. But before we talk about those that want to actually transition to grey or are grey and have made that decision, let's address those of you who aren't ready to make that change. It may be you live in an area where nobody's gone grey. So I can imagine you would prefer not to. You would prefer to carry on dyeing your hair. If you, like me, are dyeing your hair a warm colour, a deep colour, these may not be as flattering on you now. You may prefer, say, a mushroom colour, an ash blonde, cooler tones. If you put low lights through the hair and have those put through, that will help blend in the grey that's coming through, and the cooler colour you're using in your hair will blend in better with the grey, making the roots less obvious when they are growing through. So consider making that switch in the colour that you're using. That may be more flattering to your skin tone as well, because as we got older, we're getting lighter, we're getting a bit cooler in our colouring, and so that whole cooling down of the hair in the dye you're using may have a more flattering appearance for you. Because if we are using the colour dye that we used when we were younger, when our skin tone was not as light as it is now, or a box dye and there's no variation in colour within that, no tonal variance, that is itself aging. Especially then when the roots are growing through. If you're sticking to the old warm tones you used to wear, that's going to be aging. Overdone reds can make you look sallow. In my 50s, I was still dyeing my hair. I was chasing the colour I had in my 30s. It didn't occur to me that in any way to change it. Oh no, that's the colour I am, right, okay, even if grey's coming through, yes, that's, dear hairdresser, yes, please, dye it that colour, yes. Okay, I had highlights, so there's a bit of tonal variance as well. But still, it did not, absolutely not suit me. My skin had lightened, I was dressing and forcing myself to dress and use makeup to match the hair, to go with that hair, go with that warm colour I was dyeing my hair. So none of it suited me. I wasted years wearing the wrong makeup, the wrong clothes, colours and hair, and looking the worse for it for that reason. And let's talk about those roots. When you're still colouring and those grey roots come through, and the more you've gone grey, the longer you've left it, the more you've gone grey, the more grey roots show when they do come through. And then you find yourself having to go to the hairdresser more often, so it's not 6 weeks or 8 weeks, it's actually 4 weeks or then 3 weeks to cover up those roots because they're so much more obvious now. And you know, you maybe are retired, that's your pension going and being washed down with the hairdryer down the drain. Try to avoid those box dyes. Flat and monotone, which will be quite aging. No dimension, no light reflecting shades. So when you do accept going grey, if you make that decision, it's not necessarily in aging, it's going to suit your skin tone better. More in keeping, more cohesive. So we've been conditioned to thinking, well, grey hair's giving up, isn't it? It's giving up. And it's associated with that dreaded word, old. But my dad, he went grey in his 30s. He was grey before I was born. So it wasn't me that caused it. Now, if you're still working, and if you're working in the corporate world, for instance, I don't think, my own view, and I discussed this when I was working with other women, we felt it wasn't right. We wouldn't be taken seriously if we weren't grey. Such a shame. And yet men were wise and mature and they were looked up to when they were grey. We weren't. We were considered, oh, that's old guard, a bit has-been, aren't up to date with current practices. Sad, but it's the way it was. It was the way it was. Having left work, having retired, and if you're interested in retirement dressing, I've got a video for you that I did last week and it's here. But having retired, it might be an opportunity now to let go of that and actually just sit back and say, right, you know, I'm going to take a much more relaxed approach to life. But that doesn't mean letting go of yourself, and that's the important thing. Now, if you are wanting to transition, how do we do that gracefully without it being too obvious? Like those that want to stay dyeing their hair. And we talked about using sort of mushroom brown and cooler tones. When you are transitioning, also switch to those type of dyes. They will blend in better with the grey in just that same way. And as your grey is growing through and growing out, and you are no longer dyeing your hair, it's going to be less obvious that this is happening. You aren't going to have that demarcation in quite such an abrupt manner. Especially as if you still put through maybe some low lights as well, or those low lights are still showing through here. Don't do it in isolation. It's a key thing to remember. It's not only your hair, and that's one of the things that would be aging. If you thought, well, I'm going to go grey, I'm going to grow out my grey, and that's it, and that's all you changed. Because you can't just stop dyeing your hair and not change your makeup and not change your wardrobe, because that is how you would end up looking like you've given up. So how can we look fabulous then as we're transitioning and with our grey hair? So accept that you may well need to go and have your colours refreshed once you are grey, as I did, and discovered I'm a summer and not an autumn. Quite the difference. I would never have worn this pink, for instance, as an autumn. I wouldn't have dreamt of wearing this pink before. Yet, it suits me far more than the colours that I was wearing as an autumn, because I probably was never an autumn. But that's beside the point. Get a refresh once your grey has come through and find out what colours now suit you. It is worth the investment. If you find it pricey, there are ways of doing it online. Don't hide yourself away behind flat, dull neutrals either. Do wear bold. And a good go-to for many of us in the UK and in the USA is Bowden. Bold patterns, bold colours, modern designs that actually won't date. Their clothes last for years, and if you buy in the sale, and there's a sale on at the moment, and I can actually put a link down in the description right to where I found some fantastic sale items. That is the way to shop Bowden, shop the sale. You pick up some fantastic pieces. This is one, this top, I bought this recently in the sale, and actually I've mentioned in other videos and you have been buying it as well. It's a elbow length top with puff sleeves at the elbow, it's a bit of smocking at the elbow, and it's a lovely pink. They call it tickled pink. But there will be a link to where I have got some Bowden pieces. But it's not only about colour, it's about style. If you have got grey hair and you're worried about looking older as a result, ensure that your wardrobe's up to date. And that doesn't mean going out looking ultra fashionable and on trend. No, it just means making sure that the shapes of the items you're wearing in your wardrobe and that you've got in your wardrobe are modern shapes. For instance, you know, instead of a blazer, have a few crop jackets. Instead of skinny jeans, make sure you're wearing the wide leg jeans that are around about at the moment. You will look less aged in grey hair if you actually dressed in a modern, fresh way. I like to make sure every outfit has at least one modern aspect to it, one modern piece. And makeup, just like clothing colour, your makeup colour will have changed. So instead of the corals and the orange reds, maybe it's the mauves and the plum pinks for the blusher, for the lipstick. Maybe your foundation needs to be cool toned rather than warm toned. Then it comes to the hair. Have a modern cut. Layers, layers, layers. Layers add bounce. Bounce is vitality. Vitality is youthful. I had mine cut this morning. My layers refreshed. And you can see it's a bit shorter at the back than it is at the front. So what I have is a bob that kind of comes to here and then slants down. But because I've got a natural curl, it often actually ends up, you can't really see that sometimes, it just curls and thumps, but when it's wet, it's actually slanted. That's my story. But have a modern cut. And then how are we going to care for our hair? Because we want our hair to be shiny, youthful, bouncy. We want people to notice the hair and say, doesn't it look gorgeous? And actually want to run their fingers through it. You wouldn't let them, but you want them to want to. What grey hair actually is pigment that's been lost in the follicle. So the follicle's no longer producing pigment. What that means is that hair absorbs pigment from the surroundings and the environment. So if you're living in a very high polluted area, your hair, your grey hair, may actually become very yellow. Not only that, it also is coarser, it's drier, it's wiry. So for the colour, we can use a purple shampoo. Now why purple? Well, purple is opposite yellow on the colour chart. A shampoo I use is Osmo Purple Shampoo. It does have a conditioner, but my hairdresser says there's absolutely no need to use a purple conditioner. The shampoo is enough, and that is absolutely correct. The shampoo, when you have used the purple shampoo, it stays in your hair for quite a few weeks. Now don't look at my hair today. I have been very lax about using this recently. When I do use it, my hair has very obviously got a purple sheen to it, and the white under here does go very, very purple. Now I'm not in a heavily polluted area, so I don't get very yellow. What I do get is a little bit of yellow in there, which actually also makes my hair more of a blondie ash blonde to blonde than to a white, stark white grey. So I'm not quite as good about using a purple shampoo because there's no real obvious horrible bright yellow. If so far you're interested in this and I'm helping you, do give me a thumbs up, a like, and also do remember to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. We're building a community here of over 60 women, over 50 women, so as we can send the messaging to the brands that we're relevant, because we've got a large community. So we're aiming for, at the moment we're aiming for 100,000, so let's just get there really quickly. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe now. Other ways to look after the hair though is to be giving a treatment mask. And there are plenty around. I'm testing a few at the moment that I purchased, not been gifted, I purchased them. One I tested last night, I sat in bed, well this morning, I sat in bed this morning with a cup of tea, with a mask on my hair, and I put plastic over the top so it didn't dry out, because with these masks you have to wet the hair and then put it on. I sat there probably for about half an hour drinking my cup of tea in bed, then had a shower and washed my hair. Honestly, I really don't feel, my hair doesn't feel like it did when I was in my 50s and I was colouring it. It just felt really soft. I actually feel it's got body, it's got bounce, but it still feels to me quite coarse. So I'm not going to tell you that mask. I'm going to carry on testing them. You're now going to want to know how to dress in retirement. And I did a video last week, and that video is here waiting for you. I'll see you over there.